Welcome in, guys, to Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 251. Oh man, we got some things to talk about here. First up, Megumi is a loser. That dude, man, holy crap. So coming off of the last couple of chapters, I was like, yo, I was like, Megumi's gonna fight from the inside. And hear me out. I knew that Megumi went through the bathing process, right? He's been steeped in evil. We killed his sister, right? He's like Yuji in Shibuya. He's laying waste to Gojo. He's destroying all the sorcerers. Yeah. Megumi, his mental state is not looking good. I knew that coming into this chapter. But I had a feeling that the minute he would see Yuji, he would flip. He would know that there's hope at the end of the tunnel. And this buffoon, this guy, Yuji, shows up in the middle of the chapter. He sees Megumi. He is hopeful. He's like, yo, we're gonna do it. We're gonna separate Megumi from Sukuna. He's gonna wear Sukuna down from inside. It's gonna be game over. He stands in front of Megumi, and Megumi says that he doesn't have the will to live. He does not have the will to go on. He repeats that line over and over. And when we cut away from that, Yuta, Rika, Yuji get hit with the world-cutting slash. If Megumi, I would argue, if Megumi fought back in that one moment, I think Sukuna would not be able to pull off the world-cutting slash, right? Like, if Megumi, held back Sukuna a little bit, yeah, I think they would have survived that attack. I still think Yuta and Yuji are alive, obviously. I don't think that they're dead quite yet. And I have a couple of reasons for that as well. But I am a little bit disappointed in Megumi. But hey, I do like it because it did subvert my expectations. I've been with shonen manga for a long time now. And normally, when we have a scene like this, the deuterologist is like, yes, Yuji. There is hope after all, right? Like, that's usually how these scenes go in most manga. So the fact that we didn't get that, and the fact that Megumi is such a loser right here, I really like it. I like it. Of course, I am disappointed in him, but I do like this plot progression a lot. So before we dial it back and I talk about the rest of the chapter, last thing I want to say about Megumi and why I am disappointed. Like I said, I know that he was steeped in evil. I know that, Sukuna used his body to do a lot of bad things, but I do feel like Yuji should be the one character that should be able to break him out of this spell, because Yuji's been in that exact same spot. Well, technically, Yuji didn't kill his own sister, but you know what I mean? Like, Yuji did Shibuya. Yuji felt bad about murdering a bunch of innocent civilians. So I was like, yo, if Yuji just steps in front of Megumi, Megumi's gonna be like, well, if Yuji got out of it, I can get out of it too, right? Like, the minute Yuji saw one of his Nakama, which was Nanami, Yuji snapped out of it. He got out of the rut. This time around, though, Megumi does not have that same mental fortitude. And I do like that because, like I said, it shows the disparity between the two characters. They're all different. And I'm like, yo, if Yuji can't break him out of this, who can? I really don't know. Like, unless his sister gets reanimated, I don't know how Megumi's gonna get the willpower to fight back. This is gonna sound harebrained, but maybe Nobara's alive. Maybe Nobara is gonna be the one who slaps Megumi out of it. I don't know. Yeah. It's crazy. But going back to the beginning of the chapter, we see that Yuta, Rika, and Yuji are still clashing against Sukuna, and we get a little bit of insight as to what their plan is. Every time Yuji hits Sukuna, obviously he's trying to separate the soul, and they just eventually want to whittle him down. Through this fight, we actually see that Yuji has learned another cursed technique. He has the exploding blood technique, and I am completely sold now that a couple of chapters ago, it was Yuji who used piercing blood on Sukuna, because we didn't see Yuji fire it off, and I thought that was a little bit odd, so I was on the boat that it could have been Choso. But since we see Yuji use the exploding blood in this chapter, I am pretty much sold that Yuji has all of the blood curse techniques, which makes sense because it is a part of his lineage, and I really like that. Yuji went from a straight brawler to a guy who can use blood bending, essentially. That is so awesome. And I also love how dirty Yuji is fighting as well, because unlike his stepbrothers who can actively shoot blood out of their bodies and have blood come out of them, Yuji has to find a different way to get his blood out there. So the way he gets his blood out is by simply coughing it up or using the parts of his body that are already bleeding and just throw it at Sukuna. It's actually pretty cool. I love how creative these fights are. I love how gritty they are. And yeah, Yuji, in my opinion, this chapter, he was a big W. He was a big W. And you know who else is a big W? Yuta. Because Yuta also copied Angel's curse technique. So going back a little bit, we learned that the reason why Yuta was able to copy Sukuna's technique is because he ingested the last of Sukuna's fingers that the JJK sorcerers had. So that is the reason why he has cleave, dismantle, and all that good stuff. But yeah, we also learned that he has Jacob's ladder in his arsenal, which I think is a busted move. I mean, Jacob's ladder is like the whole reason why Sukuna had the hollow wicker basket in the first place. But of course, they planned a lot of this out already, so they had a feeling that Sukuna would let go of the wicker basket so that he would use the world dismantling cleave. And at that point, I kind of stopped and I was like, wait, they knew he would have a world dismantling cleave? I thought that was kind of interesting. I might need to go back and reread a different translation, but the way they made it sound, they kind of made it sound like they expected him to have like an upgraded cleave or cut in his arsenal. So I wonder if Gojo's death was also scripted. I guess that would make sense, right? Because like they're only fighting now because Gojo is dead. So this might be like their plan B. But yeah, it did get me like questioning this a little bit. I'm like, damn, how far ahead did these guys plan? Because even at the end of this chapter, it turns out that Maki was ready to go. Which, you know, getting back to it, Yuta in the earlier stages of this chapter does get hit by a bunch of cuts. And he makes note of the fact that Sukuna's attacks are getting weaker, right? They're really, really wearing this guy down. They said it last chapter, they said it again here. Sukuna's curse energy output is waning. So, with that being the case, I do think that at the end of this chapter, when Yuta, Yuji, and Rika get hit by the world dismantling cleave, I do think they are still alive. I don't know, maybe I'm coping, but I still just feel like it's too early to count Yuta out. One thing to keep in mind though is that Sukuna did slash off the arm that had the Rika ring. So I don't know if he's gonna be able to utilize this cursed energy anymore, or if he'll have to like RCT his hand back to use the ring. I don't think he can just simply plop it off and put it on a different finger, because he does have it on the wedding ring finger. So I feel like that is significant to how he uses his cursed energy. So I do think Yuta might be down for the count. It's hard to tell because like Higuruma, for example, I thought that the attacks that Higuruma took at the very end were not life-threatening attacks. But, you know, people are talking as if Higuruma's dead, and I'm like, maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe these cuts just go really deep, and I am just underplaying them. I have no idea. But at the end of this chapter, Maki pulls another Toji-like stunt and stabs Sukuna from behind. I doubt it's going to be fatal. You know, Sukuna does have RCT. He's probably just going to heal through it. Even though his powers are waning, he should be fine. And next week, or I mean the week after, because there's a break, will be the start of the Maki-Sukuna battle. And I do think Maki's going to handle herself pretty well. But I mean, everybody lost, right? Like Gojo lost, Yuji lost, Yuta lost, Rika lost. While I do consider Maki up there with the greats, I just don't think she could pull off a 1v1. And here's the thing, I don't think it's going to be a 1v1. I do want to dial it back on that note. I do think that Kusakabe, I was about to say Panda. Kusakabe, Choso, Ino, other sorcerers who are just in the back line. I think there is a chance that they all hop in as well. Because we do have to keep in mind that the domain has shattered. Yuta's domain is no longer up. So really any sorcerer can just jump into this battle now. It doesn't have to be just Maki. So yeah, I think there's a lot of possibilities here. The Sukuna Battle Royale is still raging onwards. And I'm just so curious, man. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Do you think Yuta is dead? Do you think he still can utilize his cursed technique? Or no, do you think Yuta is absolutely cooked? I would love to hear any and all thoughts down below. And also, how do you feel about Megumi? I forgot, that was like a major part of the beginning of this video, because I spent a lot of it just kind of laughing at him. But yeah, overall, I think this was a great chapter. I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm excited to see what happens next. You guys have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Signing out.